My name is Nick Adam. I'm a graphic designer originally from Chicago. So prior to coming to RISD's graduate program, I had about 15 years of experience in Chicago as a graphic designer. So I desired a very rigorous environment that had many people from many different backgrounds. I wanted to be able to design from a much wider perspective, and that's what I think the graduate program brought for me. And so like my maybe last kind of 6 years of work prior to graduate school really was focused on kind of like social aspects of graphic design. So graphic design's role in improving communities or helping communities or helping people that are in need of having a stronger voice. My time at RISD, I've really kind of focused on how essentially the graphic surfaces that we use to navigate our day or that we see throughout the world, they're essentially essentially how we come to know the whole world. Mm-hmm. So the role of the designer actually ends up being the role of creating the crust in which we identify the world by. And so that really allowed me to better understand how graphic forms influence a person's life. So the thesis work really focuses on nuanced details of type and nuanced details of design to embed kind of rich stories. So the ability to put more meaning into one's work. Sometimes like it's almost silly to think like a word meaningful can be like. So my thesis work investigates like the ability to kind of put in infinite amounts of meaning just through small nuanced details within a composition or within type or within lettering. So a lot of my work involves the designing of typefaces for every single project that I get involved with, but also the designing of different technologies, be that softwares or interaction of how websites work. And so my thesis is much less about technology, but it's much more about how unique design decisions or unique design maneuvers can be kind of a way in for public audiences. Mm-hmm. Thesis book looks like this. It reads kind of like that. A lot of the sizing is based upon being just a little too big. So like we have the descender that kind of falls off, or like the word breaks. And it's just because it's one point size too big for the size of the book. Right. One of the projects that I did was with Dr. Nelly Ben Hayoun. A lot of her work involves like travel to space and like the ability to create like new atmospheres for Mars. And so a lot of it involves like disaster and violence, and she's actually believes in chaos theory and its relationship to the kind of theater of cruelty. So a lot of her work is like quite bombastic and chaotic. Like looking at rocket launches in particular, and to see like what do rocket launches have to say that can start informing composition and layout and type design itself. So this isn't necessarily type design, but this is looking at both motion and static ways of movement that feels kind of similar to rocket launches. If we start going into other aspects of the poster, this is kind of 3 different typefaces that are designed at 3 different horizontal stresses. And what I think that starts to feel like, it starts feeling like the launching off. And as it's designed to be like kind of metrically 3 units times itself. And so what I mean by that is all sorts of different things are possible. It almost starts to animate itself. And so some of the things of why I start designing like this is essentially you get a rather robust system that you can start to deploy across any type of medium. So like while I was commissioned to create a poster for this, it instantly started creating animations and videos, a website. This is kind of the piece in motion, how it ended up working. Nellie ends up wearing a lot of like badges and pins and things that like are like cloaks of officialdom, so like things that make her seem official even though she's like quite bombastic. And so that's like where we start putting in like the NASA logo or the UN logo, because her personality is so kind of vigorous. You don't imagine that she actually is a member of the United Nations, that she works for NASA, that she works for the IAF, and all these like quite prestigious organizations. A lot of times my book goes through the like specific maneuvers that are done to kind of embed some of these meanings. And so usually side by side I show the actual work itself, and then I start showing all the different relationships. So beyond the like type that I talked about, how things are falling, there's a lot that I'm not talking about here. One of the things is the way that the background is broken up, be that these kind of like little kind of spatial segments. It relates to how combustion reaction works, and so like how something feels like it's launching. So while no one ever sees this, they see this over here. I think that a person doesn't necessarily know that all those decisions are made, but I feel as though they feel it, or they understand, they feel the intentionality around it. Some of the thesis work also involved talks with Michael Rock from 2x4. A lot of what we spoke about was Harvard Law professor Roberto Unger and his ideas of false necessity. So like how once a decision's made, it almost starts, people start kind of instantly believing in it, and then it creates like tradition and then convention and then an institution in which people start to not question things. And so the reason why I talked to Michael about this was that essentially all the things that we end up making end up influencing another person or end up influencing many people. So getting a good understanding of kind of the causal relationship between graphic design and other people's lives, it seemed like he too was thinking about those things. And so another interview that I had done was with Eric Brandt of Fictiones Typographica. And so something that he started doing in Minneapolis was creating public spaces for experimental pieces of graphic design. And so this is outside of the museum, this is outside of his house. And the people that were able to see this stuff were just like everyday people of someone going to elementary school or going to a soccer game or just kind of having a regular day. And so he felt it was important that people outside of graphic design see interesting graphic design, because we're kind of in this moment where every person is a image creator, and everyone is kind of creating very similar things. So if we look at like what Michael Rock's saying about false necessity, if everyone's starting to create things and they're all starting to create kind of similar looking things, our future's going to look pretty boring. And so this is just kind of one thing that he does to push that idea. There's kind of one final project that I think relates well to all of this. And so in thinking about like form is essentially a vehicle for ideas or a vehicle for how to see the world, I started looking at the idea of variable type and thinking about like infinitely variable types. So like how can far beyond like going from like regular to oblique or Helvetica to Times New Roman, or from like a stylistic alternative to something else. I started looking at like all sorts of other types of variables. So being able to look at like things beyond the idea of solely style, or things generally overlooked within type design related to style. Not related to style is like this idea of recursion, so the ability to program a typeface, like let's say you're setting it at 100 points, but you have recursion applied. The next letter sets at 200, the next letter sets at 300, the next letter sets at 400, while maintaining the same like weight itself. So like the weight doesn't change, so it still feels related. I think that I've been pretty successful by kind of really talking to others, like sharing where I'm at, trying to like make conversations very active by showing stuff, like not just talking about it, but showing where I'm at to very different people and having them supply additional context. So usually like when they look at something, they'll be like, oh, you have a smiley face right here. Are you familiar with Harvey Ball? Harvey Ball invented the smiley face in like 1960. And then usually the conversation spins off from there, and then from all that context, I'll have ideas of like, oh, maybe I should do something related to this. So I generally find like making something, doing searching myself, sharing it with others, and then seeing what comes from that. Try not to judge the other people that are in the room just because graphic design is perhaps has the widest width in which you can practice. Like there's so many different ways to go about it. And everyone's coming to the program for extremely different reasons. So I would say whatever the reason is that's bringing you there, make sure you're feverishly exploring it, because there'll never be another time in a person's life that's exactly like this, where it is kind of like it's do whatever you want world.
My name is Jinhua Oh, and I'm graduating this June. I'm in 2-year track in graduate graphic design department. So, well, I'm originally from South Korea, so I just moved to the States like 2 years ago. I studied graphic design also for my undergraduate degrees, but I studied in South Korea. I studied graphic design for 3 years for my undergraduate degrees. So when I was studying graphic design in Korea, I was more focused on branding. And then, well, after graduation, I also worked as an in-house designer and also freelance designer for 4 years. And then luckily I got Fulbright scholarship, and that's why I came to the States to study further about graphic design. Yeah, the title of my thesis is Reading Rooms, and Reading Rooms. So it's really abstract, so it might be very difficult to understand. But
what you are going to complete?
Yeah, because I've been interested in the concept of space because I also studied industrial design in my freshman year in college, and during that year I studied about three-dimensional structures, like 3D structures, and also experimented with diverse materiality. So I thought that they are all related to the concept of space. So even though, I've been studying graphic design, I've been always interested in how graphic design can be applied to the concept of space. So my thesis is usually mostly about spatial reading. Basically, every graphic design student in grad program are encouraged to, they definitely have to make a thesis book.
Right.
So, but, as a graphic designer, I've challenged a lot of various media from print to digital. And also, I used to work in print media when I was in Korea because I used to work in branding industry. So they are mostly about making like print materials. But well, at RISD, I more try to use digital media like web. I also made some augmented reality projects. Yeah, and also the interactive, well, motion tracking projects. So, well, I can say both because basically I love graphic design because, well, print media is a kind of like very traditional media in graphic design, and also since typography is the most important subject in graphic design, I think typography is heavily related to print media. So that's why, yeah, I don't want to kind of like lose my concentration on print media, even though I'm making digital media thing. But yeah, well, I can say that I'm interested in both. 'Cause, yeah. My thesis book is divided into 3 parts. So it actually goes from print to digital and the interaction. So the first part is called object. It talks about like how print media can be integrated as an independent object because physical object has like volume, depth, and the other materials, right? But well, I see graphic design and I see the physical output of my graphic design is not just simple representation of my ideas, but I really consider how the design is realized with what kind of materials that the output has. So, I mean, readers interpret also materials and the volume and depth of the physical output. So I really consider the combination of my design and the physicality. And then the next part is space, and which is mostly about imaginative space. So, well, I purchased a lot of motion graphic posters that you saw in my Instagram. They are all the second part. So they are mostly talks about like how we can distort readers' perception of space. So yeah, my practice really oscillates like 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional spaces. So, and also I really try to mimic the physical attributes in the physical media and through digital media. So even though I'm making like motion graphics, which is digital media, I try to find a like very persistent connection that we can find in our physical reality. So when people see the poster, they feel like, oh, it's really familiar with like our perception, like how we perceive our physical world, but they are actually kind of like mimic an artificial and virtual image that I produce like through digital media. So that's why how I try to connect like both different kinds of words, yeah, by using physical and digital media both. The last part is performers. I consider my readers and my audience as performers of my work because I put most of my interactive works in the performer section, and especially I think the like readers and participants in my interactive projects are actually like performers because I just created a platform. Especially in terms of like augmented reality projects, I created a platform in which they can leave kind of like graphical traces. So it's like a virtual mirror, so they can find what they just created, and the output that they created actually encourage another performances. So yeah, I mean, I give more authority to readers, so that's why I also consider them as a performers. Because it's a little bit different from other schools, maybe. Because I haven't experienced other schools' programs, but well, at RISD, we have to find what kind of topic I would like to discuss about by ourselves. So no one actually suggests any specific topic. So, well, so maybe well, in some classes, because we also, even graduate students take a class with undergraduate students. So in many classes, they have they give basic prompts of the process of the projects. But I mean, many parts are really like depend on like what we want to talk about. So yeah, well, it really depends on like, it really yeah, depends on the situation. It depends on this. Yeah. Our thesis process is more like how to frame my previous works. So it's really important to find what I am truly interested in, not just what I've done at RISD, I mean, in my whole life. So I just went back to my childhood and thought of what I was really interested in, because even though when I was not studying graphic design, so because it's just like how I've grown up, yeah, in a specific environment and what led me to this program. So yeah, and I also realized that my childhood experience also related to my interest, my sincere interest in space. So yeah, at first I had to find what I'm truly interested in and how I can develop the specific topic into my own design methodology. So that's the kind of like the whole process. And then the final output should be a thesis book, which is like over 300 pages. Well, I have to talk about the kind of basic process of thesis process in graphic design. So I'm basically in 2-year track, and for the first year, I had more freedom, like on like what I want to challenge, what I want to try. So I really didn't think about my thesis for the first year, and from the second year, whole class is like really encouraged to focus on our thesis. So each student has 3 thesis advisors from our GD faculty, like from primary, secondary, and external critics. So we are encouraged to meet the thesis advisors regularly. So in my case, I have had a conversation with my primary advisor once a week. It was like an hour conversation. So yeah, for the year, we are really encouraged to think about our thesis and discuss and develop the thesis throughout the year. And we also have like 3 presentations. So in the first semester, we have 2 presentations. I'm very, very satisfied with my program at BC, because well, when I compare to my education that I did in Korea, well, there are a lot of differences, because at RISD, we are very encouraged to read and write a lot. Yeah, write a lot, because it's a crazy amount of papers. But well, I mean the relationship between students and teachers are really close. It's really important to find what you are really interested in, and yeah, definitely try to find your own design methodology, even though they are not really sophisticated.
Hi, I'm Janine Wang, and I'm a furniture major at RISD in the graduate program. And I studied architecture at the Cooper Union for 5 years. My thesis, I wanted to do it on comfort, which is like a very broad and vague and subjective term. So I got a little bit of resistance from the faculty here for those reasons, which are totally true. And in response, what I tried to do was I broke it down into a lot of different words that I associated with comfort and tried to make it more organized. So on this side is tangible aspects of comfort, and this is intangible. So tangible being things like movement or configurability, or the idea of fidgeting or tactility. And on the intangible side, things like intimacy or protection and security. And pretty much just started trying to make pieces that occupied parts of the map. So like I would be able to say like this has to do with like comfort in movement and in proprioception. So like knowing where your body is in space at all times. And something like the pillows in the back there have like objects that are precious to me personally that I was trying to make like a different kind of furniture for display or things that should, well, in my opinion, they should like live with you and not be like in showcases or like out the, like lost in the basement or junk cars and that.
Right.
Well, when I first got here, I immediately learned how to do like wood turning, which I didn't expect to like fall that deeply in love with. It's like putting objects on the lathe and having them like spin, and you take a chisel or some sort of tool, so while it's spinning, you can cut it away and like carve at it manually. And I think from that, I got like a really good sense of how easy it is to make like doubly curved surfaces. So things like this, where it would otherwise be really difficult to make something that like the body can contour to so well. And I don't know, I like took a bunch of like normal classes, like stuff like I did a woodworking class and like a metalworking class, and I mean all the processes are like out there, so I could get a feel over time whether or not like that one was for me or not. And like obviously all my classmates and all the undergrads, so we're very close with the undergrads, and everybody kind of has like specialties and stuff, so you can always just ask or try things or find out. After my first year here, I kind of knew I would love upholstery, so I took an upholstery class, which is like making soft goods, I guess. So those are basically the two realms that I work in. It's the best one. Like, hands down, it's the best one. Not just because of like technical stuff, like we have this teacher in these facilities or whatever, but like I think there's something about furniture design that makes people really
Collaborated.
Yeah. Like I've been able to go experience the other different departments, and there isn't like the same sense of closeness. Like I know every single person in the department, not just the graduates, but the undergraduates too. And I know like their work. I think a lot of the I think if you come here, especially just as a grad student in general, you should be prepared not to be just handed things.
Just be what?
Like just spoon-fed, you know? Like I think from what I've seen from my like fellow grad students all across the school is that the people who expected things to just be given to them were really unhappy. RISD sets up opportunities for you. Like there's so many shows. Like there's so many. Like my department coordinator, she emails us like competitions all throughout the year that you can apply to, but no one's telling you like you have to apply, you know. So if you just let those things go and then expect to be like I don't know, like spoon-fed, you know, like it's gonna be a really disappointing experience. But I think if you're gonna go out to grad school in general, you should always be doing it with like full presence of mind. Like it's okay to kill yourself and not sleep for 2 years because it's worth it right now.
大家好，我是林新叶，我是罗岛设计学院的建筑专业的同学。然后 我的本科是城市规划。我的毕业设计是关于一个异世界，在太空里。因为我之前我一直蛮喜欢看科幻小说，然后也喜欢看一些哲学类的书，所以我对就是什么是宇宙，然后什么是空间，还有平行宇宙啊这些观念我都觉得很有意思。我就一直想尝试用建筑的手法来重新表达我的这些观点。所以就有了这么一个毕设的主题。然后我的毕设就是在尝试用建筑的语言来做一个往复循环的以小见大的空间，一个世界。就是我上学期我是从一滴水开始的，我观察一滴水在太空站里面破裂的瞬间，然后它破裂的那个瞬间就有一个很模糊的空间，然后我就捕捉到了那个结构，然后把那个结构进一步的重建出来。我就发现这个结构很像那个拓扑学结构的克莱因瓶，所以我就以克莱因瓶的这种结构开始作为原型，然后一步一步的把它扩展成了一个建筑空间。卡尔是我的导师，他其实是一个还挺 open mind 的人，他自己就是一个很喜欢尝试和挑战难度的人，所以当我们讨论这个题目的时候，他觉得还蛮有意思的，因为就是 Rizzi 建筑的就是往年的毕设里面还没有这个方向的主题，然后他还蛮鼓励我的，一直都挺支持我探索这个方向。就是我觉得我的 thesis 最难的部分是在于它是怎么以建筑的这个形式来呈现的，然后它具体就是在建筑这个方向上呈现了多少。然后之前的 critique 也有很多老师问，就是你这个有没有一个标准去评判它发展到了什么程度是 successful 的。然后我觉得这个问题一直都是我也在一边做一边问自己的问题。因为你重新构建一个异世界，一个你心目中的层层的宇宙，就是你必须要就是所有的都是新的，你必须要开始自己决定哪些是需要的，哪些不需要。你有点像是在扮演一个上帝，但是你又需要一些规则，你不可能完全摆脱你已知道的这个世界来创建一个新的东西。我觉得我们专业还挺有意思的，它就是比起Rizzi 的其他艺术类的专业，它又更加的理性。然后在设计跟其他学校的设计专业相比呢，它又非常的艺术。然后这两种就是不同的方向，它都就是 combine 在一起了。所以我觉得在这边念建筑的时候，你有的时候有点像是跳出了建筑的框架，然后来回头看这个学科，挺有意思的。